Today we're myth-busting the US's Gold Card program, putting it head-to-head against the EB-5, both leading to direct green cards for qualified applicants. There's a lot of noise out there and new executive orders being issued like never before from the White House, and it's confusing a lot of people. We'll sort out through all the misinformation and give you the facts of what you can actually count on to make an informed decision. Let's do a quick introduction for both of these programs. The EB-5 program is actually part of the employment-based fifth preference category of the US immigration system. Quote unquote, the primary purpose of EB-5 is to stimulate the US economy by attracting capital investment from abroad into US commercial enterprises with dual goals of creating or preserving jobs for US workers and promoting economic development, unquote. The EB-5 program requires that the investment creates and preserves at least 10 full-time jobs for qualified American workers, while the Gold Card is based on a gift or donation which can lead to eligibility under the exceptional business ability and national benefit category and national interest waiver category of the USimmigration regulations. The President of the United States of America has announced his first year in office, his second term, quote, I hereby announce the Gold Card, a visa program overseen by the Secretary of Commerce that will facilitate the entry of aliens who have demonstrated their ability and desire to advance the interests of the United States by voluntarily providing a significant financial gift to the nation, unquote. The requisite gift amount should be $1 million for an individual donating on his or her own behalf and $2 million for a corporation or similar entity donating on behalf of an individual. Therefore, folks, we know so far the Gold Card and EB-5 immigration programs will both lead to green cards. However, the Gold Card will be a donation while the EB-5 program is a capital investment, refundable. How do the EB-5 program and the Gold Card work anyway? What options are there available? Well, for the EB-5 program, there's two options. Direct investment, where you invest your own capital directly into a US business and help create jobs yourself. It's possible, but can you do it if you're outside the US and you don't have a work authorization yet to implement the business? Some people think it's easy, but it's not as easy as it sounds, especially when you're not already in the US and have never started or operated or managed a business in the US, specifically to create 10 or more US qualified full-time jobs. The second option is regional center investments for EB-5, where you invest through the USCIS designated regional centers, which pools money together from multiple investors and directs into larger job-creating projects such as real estate, infrastructure, or hospitality developments. 99% of all applicants under the EB-5 choose this proven method due to the established model, the passive nature of the investment. Imagine, if you invest in yourself, you gotta be remotely making sure that whoever's doing this in the US for you has to create these jobs. Well, with the regional centers in these projects, they've been doing it for over 20 or 30 years. And certain projects which are lower risk than others are usually the preference. And there's some that have a higher ROI but higher risk as well. So you have two options for EB-5, regional center investment, which is the proven method, and then the direct investment, which carries also a lot of risk. And if you don't have experience or contacts to run a business remotely before you even get into the US because you're not gonna have work authorization, then it's gonna be a challenge. Under the regional center model, indirect jobs means, for example, construction or supplier jobs can count towards the required 10 full-time positions, giving investors more flexibility. So it's not just direct job creation, it's indirect, and you have to have an economist which makes an economic impact report and a final certificate from the project to submit to the immigration department. So yeah, there's a lot of paperwork involved. What about the Gold Card? You've got three options. The $1 million donation under the Gold Card, which can lead to a green card. The $2 million corporate donation, which a company can make for an employee There's some vagueness and gray area about this we've covered later in this video, but let's see. And the third option, you can go all out and get the platinum card. No, not the diamond card, not the titanium card. I'm talking about the platinum card with the cool crisp $5 million donation, which will give you 270 days a year privilege to stay inside the US without becoming a tax resident. And if you know anything about US taxation and immigration, even as a tourist, if you spend enough time in the US, and we're not talking about calendar years, you can become a tax resident. So this is quite an interesting perk if you're interested in donating $5 million with the platinum card. So what are the investment requirements for the gold card and the EB-5 program? Well, the gold card was initially launched as a donation of $5 million. However, in early October 2025, the White House slashed the prices and made the gold card $1 million, which is a pretty good deal. I mean, it's like going to an outlet mall and buying a branded leather jacket for like 1/10 of the price. So pretty interesting. The donation will go into a specified US Treasury Department account. Supposedly, it's there to help offset the national debt. You know, we'll figure that part out later when they have all that money and there's reports of how it was actually spent. They kept the platinum card at $5 million for the executive access to tax-free residency of 270 days in the US. However, for the EB-5 program, as of the latest details and all the updates which happened in 2022, the minimum investment in a targeted employment area, which is called TEA, a rural or high unemployment area, is $800,000. For projects outside of these targeted employment areas, the standard is $1,050,000. These thresholds adjust periodically to keep up with inflation, because in 2022, after approximately 30 years, it was updated from $500,000 to $800,000 minimum for the EB-5. The investor must also prove their capital is lawfully sourced. This is critical, and although the gold card and the platinum card haven't stated that, we're pretty sure that's going to be one of those requirements. Meaning the money comes from legitimate and verifiable sources such as income, business profits, real estate sales, rental income for which you paid taxes, or even loans, or even gifts from immediate family, provided these loans meet the legal definition of capital under the immigration regulation. So remember, the source of funds is as important or more important than the actual project or route you're selecting, whether you're doing donation gold card or platinum card, or the capital investment into the EB-5 projects. Now let's put the track record head to head, gold card versus EB-5. The National Trade Association called Invest in the USA, IIUSA, publishes an EB-5 economic impact figure almost every year. And it stated that since 2016 to 19, the EB-5 was estimated to contribute $184 billion to the US economy through capital investments, job, economic multiplier effects, though that is economic output, not strictly just the raw investor capital. The total figure since 1990 is unknown, but you can use your imagination what this program has done for the last 35 years in terms of a money-making machine for the US economy, developers, US lawyers, regional centers, and even immigration agencies. The gold and platinum card, well, any track record? Not yet. Zero. But you get the point. So some of you must be wondering, when is the US Gold Card program or Platinum Card program launching? As per September 19, 2025 executive order issued and published by the White House, the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of Homeland Security have to implement the program within 90 days of the order by the US President. This means technically it should be launched by December 18, 2025, just before Christmas. Of course, this is all talk and this is very theoretical launch date. The main obstacle remains is how will a new immigration program be launched without US congressional approval? You need to know a few facts about the US Constitution and regulations and how immigration programs are actually implemented in order to understand the background of all this. Under the US Constitution, the power to create new immigration categories or visa programs rests exclusively with Congress, not the President. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. I quoted that. Therefore, only Congress can create new pathways to permanent residency, citizenship, or even new visa categories, such as EB-5, H-1B visa, skilled workers, or the diversity visa lottery even. In other words, the White House cannot legally create a new immigration program that grants green cards or visas without legislation passed by the US Congress. The President, through the Department of Homeland Security and USCIS, can, however, take executive action that changes how existing laws are enforced or implemented, like the H-1B visa surcharge of $100,000 that they implemented. This is exactly what executive discretion or regulatory authority is, right? So all these things can be implemented with executive orders and instructions by the White House, but they cannot technically create an immigration program that leads to a visa or green card on their own without the involvement of Congress. Conclusion: all of the above rely on existing statutory authority. This means that the US President can shape or expand the use of existing immigration tools, but cannot invent new immigration visa categories or permanent residency classes without the approval of Congress. Which program will give you a faster green card? The US's Gold or Platinum card or the EB-5 program? And what about the approval rates? On the US government Gold Card website, it states, quote unquote, for a processing fee after DHS vetting, a $1 million contribution receives US residency in record time with the Trump Gold Card, unquote. I'm quoting exactly as per their website. This is their promise. But what do they mean by fast? Is there no visa quote? What if there's a backlog eventually that's created? Is there some kind of shared quota? The government website promises that the Gold and Platinum card holders will receive permanent residency as if they're in the EB-1 or EB-2 visa categories of the existing immigration program. We covered these two EB-1 and EB-2 programs because the US government plans to squeeze applicants from the Gold and Platinum card into these existing categories. Pretty smart, but will it work? Which will reduce the number of visa allocations for the regular applicants who are not donating 1 million or 5 million and they're going through the regular EB-1 or EB-2 routes. Well, applicants, be aware. There could be a clash. There might not be enough visa allocations if the $1 million donation takes off. On the other hand, the EB-5 processing right now, as of October 2025, has no retrogression for any nationalities, meaning that you could potentially see processing time as fast as 1.5 years when compared to Portugal and Canada. Well, that's pretty fast still, way faster than these two other countries I just mentioned. The EB-5 Immigration Investor Program is evolving faster than ever, and the numbers from the US Industry Association, IIUSA, tell a very interesting story. In the last 2 years, from the 2022 Reform and Integrity Act, which affected the EB-5 program and it became into effect, the EB-5 approval rates has surged, especially under the Form I-526E, which is the new version for regional center investors. According to this trade association's latest statistics reported, the approval rate for I-526E petitions in the fiscal year of 2024, last year, hit 98%. Holy moly, compared to 73% before 2022, before the reform was made. A lot of people in the industry call that a whole cleansing, a whole cleanup of all the scammy things that were happening before that. And so far in fiscal 2025, these new cases are maintaining a 94 to 95% approval rate under the EB-5 program, which is an interesting trend since the new act in 2022. At the same time, filing volume has exploded. In 2024, more than 4,800 new I-526E petitions, which is the application for the green card that you do under the EB-5 program, were submitted. an 85% increase from 2023. That's crazy. This signals new global confidence in the EB-5 program, stability after all these reforms post-COVID. Yes, the price went high, but a lot of restructuring, regulations, compliance, supervision, and cleaning out the bad apples. And that's what happened. When you look at where the investors are coming from, China leads the way, 51% of all EB-5 applicants, followed by India with roughly 20 to 25% depending on which year you're looking at, and a growing mix from Latin America like Mexico and the Middle East. And the majority of these applicants are from where? Well, first they come from the US, H-1B visa holders, F1s, whatever it is, they're looking for a green card route. And then the rest from outside of the US. Another interesting insight, projects located in rural areas are showing the highest success rates, about 96% approval compared to 93% in the high unemployment areas under the regional center projects. That's largely because rural projects now enjoy priority processing and reserved visa quotas under the 2022 Reform Act, which affected the EB-5 regulations. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that rural is always going to be better than the high unemployment area. Plus, if there's no retrogression or backlog, then it doesn't really matter. Maybe it's a 3-4 month difference, right? Meanwhile, older pre-form petitions, so I'm talking about pre-2022, pre-COVID, especially from China and Asia and Vietnam, continue to face difficulties, with some approval rates dropping as low as 35% for legacy cases. Will the US Gold Card program allow all nationalities to apply? Well, we're pretty sure it won't be the case. Just like all other US immigration programs, any ties to sanctioned countries, or as we call it, the axis of evil, I was born in one, fun fact of the day, will not be eligible to apply for either the Gold Card, the Corporate Card, the Platinum Card, or even the EB-5 program. Of course, there are certain exceptions if you have absolutely no ties with those countries, but for whatever reason you have those, you have that citizenship, then there might be a way out of it. Otherwise, all the US programs have the same restrictions on sanctioned countries. Folks, what does this all mean? For the Gold and Platinum Card, well, all very fancy options. But will they be implemented correctly and as per schedule? Again, we're stuck with more questions than answers with the Gold Card and the Platinum Card. Literally, the Gold and Platinum Card options are on a US government website, which looks like a templated CRM landing page. It probably took 1 hour and probably cost $250. EB-5, well, obviously the EB-5 for now is the more established investment green card program for the US. And remember, not every program, not all programs are perfect. They all have their faults, they all have their risks. Since 1990, the EB-5 program has been active and it continues today with a minimum investment of $800,000 in rural or targeted employment areas in a project that creates at least 10 full-time US qualifying jobs. Your money is always at risk with these projects, but that's the immigration requirement. If it wasn't at risk, you'd be refused by the US Immigration Department, because that is what EB-5 is all about. So, what do these stats and numbers really tell you about the EB-5 program? Well, that the EB-5 program is active, stronger and faster than ever before since pre-COVID. For qualified investors today, the combination of high approval rates, visas set aside, no backlog, and structured compliance means the opportunity to obtain a green card is probably better than it was before 2022. Our office works with all the various regional centers. We are not exclusive to any regional center or project. Why? To avoid conflict of interest. If I'm promoting one project to you or two projects, well, that's kind of fishy. We're willing to work with any projects as long as they're sound. If you pick a project, we'll help you through it. And of course, we have more than 10 projects or 20 projects at any time that we can offer to you. Our legal team can do the pre-assessment on your case and any project you select, or even loan financing options for certain capital investment projects. Do you know if your documentation is enough to qualify for the EB-5 immigration part of the program without being refused, which is very important? Well, we can figure it out for you. When you work with us, we'll review the investment projects to assess which ones has the lowest risk, highest ROI, whichever tickles your fancy, financing options for EB-5 projects, legal assessment, a review of your documents, and your children's ages are of concern, no problem. We'll do an exact assessment of the risks of your child aging out before we can file the DS-230 petition for you and your family. Send me a message and mention you watched this video to book a complimentary call, and let's plan your green card.